You have a thing in your book that's really interesting. It's the 5 stages, bulleted out, and then at the end of the book is the 5 stages of how you cope now.
Well, I thought the 2 hardest chapters were going to be the first one, and then I wrote about the day that Bob died. And
Bob Saget.
Bob Saget. And the 5 stages there were, thank God, it was health and meditation and my family and therapy. And so I had to sort of figure out how to, from A to Z.
Yeah.
But thank God I got to that place. But before I wrote this, I'd say, I have some regrets. I shouldn't have done this. I wrote this, I go, I don't have any regrets. Everything happened for a reason. I try to find the relatable stuff, and I think, the bullying is one of them. I caught my first love. I was so madly in love, and I walked in, and she was in bed with somebody, and it just killed me.
It's funny because you write this whole book, and that is a headline. Tony Danza.
Tony Danza
walked in.
No, that's the reason why I wrote this story in here was because.
Have you heard from him, by the way? Has he reached out to you?
I'm sure he's waiting for me out there. He's a boxer too. This guy.
Big Nose Stamos is about to hit again.
No, well, here's why I did it, because I talked about the heartache. I walked in on this girl that I was in madly love with, and there were 4 feet coming out of the bed, and I was like, oh, no. And I said, I'm going to beat this guy up. And he kind of rolled over, and I saw his abs ripped. Like I said, I'm going to run. And I did. But I remember telling myself, John, don't cry. And I ran down the driveway, just tears were streaming down. But here's the thing. So years later, we just couldn't find an audience, and we didn't have a good lead-in.
But things take time.
They do. And this show took a little time, and it was the end of the season, and we were on the bubble, as they say. And they said, we're going to try one more thing. We're going to put it on in the summer and see if you guys gather any audience. We have a hit show. We're going to put you on after this hit show. And what happened was we did that, and an audience found the show, and they came with us the second season. The show was Tony Danza's show. So it all equaled out in the end. I mean, without him, I don't think I'd be here talking to you.
You also have a lot in the book about your mom and the letters she wrote you.
I remember that my mom wrote me these beautiful notes. And so I had this box, I dug them out, and then...
And they're in the book. You can see her handwriting, which is so beautiful to look at.
And I put it in here, too. Once I laid these all out, I go, oh, now I know how to... I'm the only person on earth that has shared a heartbeat with you, my love. And during that first chapter, right before I was getting into the car, and it was terrible. Make good choices. And this one was like, don't ever give the devil a ride, because he will end up doing the driving. I should have listened to that one.
But you have to go through stuff. It's like people cannot pave your journey for you.
Right. Everything happened, obviously, for a reason here. Like, if I would have said, oh, forget the heartache, then I don't know if I would have been a good enough man to have the love that I have now, if I didn't go through divorce and some of this stuff. And I tell you, I was holding on to it for way too long. A lot of anger about this divorce, and that's getting headlines soon.
It kind
of sort of pops up where it's like, I hated her. I just hated I wanted to be married for life, and I wanted to have kids and the whole thing, same as you.
Yes.
So when that didn't happen, I went, it was really hurtful. But going through, rehab, and there's this 4th step where you write down all your resentments. And he said, in a row. I said, give me that pen. She did this to me. She did that, blah, blah, blah. And he said, now, in the next column, what part did you play in all that? I said, what? No, I didn't do. Oh, okay. He said, even if it was 1%, write it. I start writing. And I realized that I had a lot more to do with it than I thought. And anything less than truth is paralysis. And that's what I realized here. And it feels good to just get it out and say I'm sorry for things I'm sorry for. And but I learned, and if I hadn't had this rocky stuff, I wouldn't have the fairy tale life that I have now.
And what I love is that we can go through really, really hard things. And if you can make them your story and your strength, and also even have, I know this is going to sound controversial, but a lighter tone about it, it's like we are afraid to talk about heavy stuff because we think it will make us all so heavy. And it doesn't have to be. It's a part of your trajectory of how we figured things out.
And people probably think that we didn't have any of these issues because we're stars or whatever. We have just as many, but I think it's nice for us to talk about it so people will go, oh, if they had that issue, and here's how maybe people will learn a little something. Maybe they won't make a couple of the mistakes that I made.
I think they'll learn a lot from your journey and your personality. personal insights, and even doing things like if I'm looking outward and I'm feeling a certain way, can I look inward and be honest about that? Can I break that cycle that I'm totally stuck in?
Exactly.
I didn't want my story to come out when I was 13 years old, and it was the most liberating thing in the world because I was like, I don't have to pretend to be perfect.
You are perfect. You don't have to pretend. You are.
So are you.
You bring so much happiness to so many people just by your...
So do you.
Not, but